Willpower usually sounds like a crown, right? Or maybe a weapon. It sounds like this absolute proof of exactly who you are. But in this book, Willpower by Roy F. Baumeister and John Tierney, they make it feel so much stranger than that. And the very first shock is this: your failure. Well, it probably started long before the actual test even happened. Welcome to the UpGoWise Masterclass. Let's really look at the design of this whole thing. So you treat self-control like this heroic shove, meaning every single hard day becomes proof that your character is somehow cracked. You probably think the hard moment asks one simple question: do I have strength? Yes or no? But this book, it asks a much colder question. It asks, who designed the moment this way? See, Baumeister and Tierney absolutely do not excuse collapse. Instead, they just move the crime scene. They move it from midnight all the way back to the morning, from your hand to the room itself, from one isolated choice to literally every choice you made before it. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that wears the mask of morality. It looks at you and says you failed because you are less. But this book refuses that easy cruelty. It asks us for a ledger, not a sermon. So what does this actually mean? Well, I want you to keep this thought wide open in your mind because it's absolutely going to come back when the room goes dark later. When you say you lack willpower, you might actually just be naming a design failure. We've all said it, right? I just need to try harder when it matters. It sounds so incredibly noble, doesn't it? I honestly wish this weren't true, but look at it, by the time it actually matters, the day has already completely spent you. This belief that you just need to push through, it really flatters your sense of responsibility, sure, while totally dodging the reality of your own design. Which leaves you staring at two losing options. You either push harder and drain faster, or you lower the standard and just feel fake. Both of these choices keep the problem entirely locked inside your skull. But here's the thing. They are the exact same misunderstanding, because both of them assume the failure is you. Let's actually walk through the invisible load you survived today. You resisted picking up the phone. You answered that really difficult message. You chose the exact right tone. You held back the complaint. You stayed completely polite. You delayed the urge, and you kept the mask firmly on. And then, dinner arrives. The inbox pings, and the rule breaks. The old way of thinking says that final break reveals your true weak self. But the book says that final break actually reveals the load you've been carrying all day. Because willpower is absolutely not a magical substance you just summon out of thin air at the 11th hour. It is a finite load-bearing capacity that you have to protect. And the funny thing is, you already accept this with your phone. You don't call a phone weak when the battery drains, right? You just plug it in before the critical call. Well, self-control deserves the exact same practical respect. Treating exhaustion as a character flaw is basically like blaming a bridge lane for cracking when every single heavy truck has been routed across it. You wouldn't call the lane immoral. You would ask why the load path was designed so poorly. The moment of failure is rarely the moment where failure actually begins. I really want you to let that sit for a second. Take a breath. Don't ask why you are like this. Instead, ask yourself where the day demanded completely needless force from you. Look at the golden keystone in this stone arch. At the anchor point of what we teach here on UpGoWise, we hold this exact image in gold. A stone arch isn't weak because it needs shape. It's strong exactly because it has shape. A scaffold is not a crutch. It's how stone actually learns to stand. The arch stands because the force finally has a clear path. Now watch how we can reconstruct that path for you. Instead of adding some massive, overly complex new system to your life, I just want you to audit these 4 structural points. Number 1, the cue. What specific object in the room is asking for that old behavior? Number 2, the choice. What keeps staying open way too long? 3, the fuel. What time of day makes you the most brittle? And 4, the recovery. What repair comes right after you miss? Because a handrail is simply a design choice. Putting your phone in another room or deciding what's for breakfast before you're actually hungry. None of that is low ambition. No way. It's the exact difference between staging a theatrical performance and building a real practice. Performance asks for applause and endless courage at every single step. But practice? Practice just asks for repeatable conditions. The strongest will is quite often the least theatrical. And this brings us to how we actually treat ourselves. When your performance dips, do you blame the structure or do you automatically blame yourself? Let's look at shame versus rigor. Think about it. You wouldn't scream at a cracked steel beam, would you? Of course not. You'd inspect the load, the material, the angle. Well, that exact same rigor belongs to the self. Shame tells you that only feeling pain proves you care. But rigor says the promise matters. So the structure itself is what absolutely must change. You have to decouple your identity from your performance dips because shame literally just burns the energy you desperately need to rebuild. A lapse is not a confession. It is a map. So look at the map, not the shame. It's really time to completely separate your self-worth from those late-day collapses. Remember that midnight moment of failure we talked about? You are not choosing with a clean self there. You are standing under a ceiling built by the exhaustion of your entire day. The big mistake was treating one tired, drained minute as the absolute truth of who you are. When you say you lack willpower, you may just be naming a design failure. Now, to be clear, this isn't some excuse to soften your high standards, not at all. It is a demand to make your responsibility far more precise. Your day needs form. To build that form, you're going to access your growth map on UpGoWise. Before tomorrow, you will run a 5-minute handrail audit on one recurring failure. Just choose one, not 5. One single point of friction. 5 minutes. Do exactly this. Write one promise, remove one cue, place one handrail, and choose tomorrow's first move. Stop testing character, build rails.